Hi, and welcome to Extra Serving, an award-winning podcast by Nation's Restaurant News. I am your host, Holly Petre. This week, we're going to be talking about all the executive shakeups that have been going on from Inspire to McDonald's. Executives are on the move this week. Also, we'll be talking about sustainability in restaurants. It may be Earth Month, but it seems like restaurants are pulling out all the stops, from Chipotle to Yum Brands, to celebrate with their new sustainability goals. We'll also be talking about the Power List, which was released this week, as well as our Create keynoter. Lots to talk about on our own front this week. Now it's time to introduce my co-hosts.
I'm Sam Oches, Editor-in-Chief of Nation's Restaurant News.
And I'm Leigh Zinsmeister, Managing Editor of Nation's Restaurant News.
And now let's turn it over to this week's sponsor. Everyone in the industry knows that Smithfield Culinary has a full line of great, ready-to-cook, ready-to-eat products with Smithfield and Margarita. But what else is cooking? Tap into the latest culinary trends and get inspired with new recipes created by real working chefs from across the country. Bring more to the table with flavors and menu ideas your guests will savor. Visit smithfieldculinary.com or follow Smithfield Culinary on social media. All right, well, Sam, you just came back from Austin. Welcome back.
Thank you. I've got more pep in my step because the sun is shining and it's warm, and that makes me happy.
You're already bringing up talks of the weather, Sam. Come on.
Yeah, true. Okay, forget that. Forget that I said that. We had a great event in Austin. We were there for our Austin Roadshow. And as listeners know, we've been hosting these roadshows as a way to get out around the country and meet restaurant operators in communities across America. We hosted in LA a few weeks back, and we just hosted in Austin. Had a great turnout, lots of fun, great conversation from our panel there of some emerging restaurateurs in the area. So lots of fun, and we'll have more of those later this year.
And if you want to learn more about any of those concepts, you can turn to our website, nrn.com/cities. We have a video from Austin that features all three of those brands.
Yes, indeed. And those brands are Hop Dottie, Cilantro Barbecue, and Via 313 Pizzeria. Holly and I stuffed our faces with their food last year. And
literally stuffed.
We sacrificed ourselves for the good of you, our listener, our audience member. Felt like dying afterward, but it was all for the content. All for the content. I'm trying to convince Sam to do one in Chicago. If you guys think we should do one in Chicago, let me know, and then I can forward it on to Sam. And tell us where to go. Because
tell us where to go, please.
Yeah, we go around the cities. We feature up and coming brands, and if you're in Chicago or you know of somebody in Chicago that should be featured, tell us where we should go stuff our faces.
So I can convince Sam to let me come to Chicago one day early.
We'll see. I need to prepare my gut for doing that.
Sam's like, I need a break from Holly.
Need a break from food. I need a break from Holly. I
haven't eaten yet today, so I'm on my break from food.
Okay.
I've already had 2 meals, so between us, I think we've had the correct amount of food.
Between us, we've evened it out.
I don't think it works that way, guys, but sure.
We're gonna pretend it does, okay?
Okay.
We're gonna sit here and pretend. It's nice and sunny here, though. I will say, in case the people are watching this and I'm blinding them, I cannot help it. The sun is right there, and it is a beautiful day in New York. I'm bringing the weather up again, Sam, but I don't want the viewers to be like, "Why am I blind?" So I just wanted to really put that out there for all of our YouTube viewers.
It can make them as happy as we are.
I mean, we don't really seem that happy, but.
I think I've had some spicy episodes lately where I'm just like in a sour mood, and right now I'm exhausted from travel. I have a sick child, so I am just sort of counting down the hours before I start throwing up because it's just how it works. And yet the sun is out and it's warm, so I'm happy.
And you're getting a trampoline.
And I'm about to get a trampoline in my yard, so it is a good day.
Great day to be Sam.
Yeah, except for in 12 hours when I'm laying on the couch throwing up my guts, but that's another story.
It's not my problem.
I kind of want to come over and play on your trampoline. I've only been on one trampoline.
That just doesn't surprise me. I mean, you never cease to amaze the various. I mean, the fact that you've at least been on one trampoline makes it a little bit better. So,
well, we had a mini one at my house, like that holds one person.
Hold on a second. So the only trampoline you've been on is a mini trampoline?
Yes.
Get thee to a trampoline park, Holly.
I think I'm too old at this point. I think I'd break every bone in my body.
I mean, listen, having been on trampolines as an adult, It is definitely a different experience. It's your muscles and joints they don't work like they did as a kid, and you will be sore in ways you've never been sore after the fact. But I had a trampoline growing up, and many hours of my life spent on that thing. They are a lot of fun. They keep you active and healthy. That's why we're getting one for our kids. And yeah, you got to experience it, Holly. A nice big trampoline. A trampoline park, too. The whole floor is a trampoline. So you just get to bounce around, and you have to know what that feels like.
It's so fun. Trampolines are so fun.
They are.
I mean, the mini one was very fun. I used to bounce on it, but we only had a driveway, so I just had to stand in the driveway and bounce on it.
It sounds dangerous.
We got to keep a list of all the many ways in which Holly was deprived.
Leanne, do you remember the Skip-Its?
Skip-It.
I remember Skip-Its.
I had one of those.
The 90s.
I remember Skip-Its too. He's not that much older than us.
I remember Skip-It, yeah. Do you remember Moon Boots? Boots?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember those the drumming sticks that didn't actually have drums on them? But they made the noises?
Oh, like if you just waved them.
Yeah, if you just waved them, they made the drumming noises.
I do remember those.
No,
yeah.
Sam plays actual drums.
I hit actual drums. I don't want to waste time on air. I don't waste it on the air. No. Give me a real drum. Well,
I was on the phone with Alicia Kelso, one of our coworkers, the other day, and she showed me her drum set, and it was very cool.
I mean, I got one 2 floors beneath me, so someday maybe I'll do a special episode of Extra Serving from my basement.
On your drums,
set up the camera so we can see you, and then you can make the noises every time we're funny.
Can you learn to play the theme song? We could have a special intro where you're playing the Extra Serving music.
Yeah,
on your drum.
Or you could play the Happy News segment. You could go.
But you guys realize that drums don't have melody, right? They don't have notes. So if you're okay with a theme song that is purely
but the beats.
Yeah, just the beats. And then
boom, ba, boom, ba, Extra Serving.
Yeah, I'll sing over it. Don't worry.
There you go. Yeah, Sam, don't worry.
All right, next episode.
Okay, well, now we can get into the actual work part, now that we've just completely destroyed our brains with
everybody's time.
So executive change-ups. We've had a lot. This morning is Thursday. We've already had 2 CEOs on the move. So that's a lot. We had a big shakeup at Inspire. We had some big shakeups at McDonald's. We talked about it a little bit last week, but we have even more shakeups at McDonald's. I mean, what is it about this week?
I don't know. I don't know what it is about the timing, but it's in addition to everything you just said, Holly, we've also had about a dozen just one-off executive changes, but all those ones that you just listed are big industry news. And that's what's kind of unusual about all these exec changes at once. So at McDonald's, we knew some changes were coming, and I think we're still waiting to hear the full extent of what is going on at McDonald's corporate, but they did this week announce that they were adding 2 people to their senior leadership team while they start to restructure their corporate side. Inspire Brands yesterday had a huge reshuffle. Claudia San Pedro stepped down from Sonic Drive-In for personal reasons, hoping all is well there with her, but it inspired a sort of domino effect of leaders over there. That's what's kind of great about a big company like Inspire, is that you've got all these executives across all these different brands, and you can kind of pick and choose and move people around there. Among the changes there that I'm really excited about is that Rita Patel is now president of Arby's. This is a woman of color. She's been in the industry a long time. She was in marketing at Buffalo Wild Wings, another Inspire brand, before moving over to be CMO at Arby's and now president, which is also kind of an unusual career move. We usually see operations executives moving into the president role, but I'm excited to see what she'll do there. We've also got Jim Taylor moving over from Arby's to Sonic, and John Bowie is being promoted to head of Buffalo Wild Wings. So lots of big changes over there that it'll be fun to see what happens at Inspire in the future. They've got a lot of fun, exciting brands, so I'm eager to see what's going on there. And then just this morning, right in a row, Carol's Restaurant Group, which is Burger King's biggest franchisee, and Fiesta Restaurant Group, which have both had interim CEOs for several months, named their permanent CEOs this morning. So at Fiesta, we've got Dirk Montgomery, who's been the interim CEO, just staying on permanently in that position. And over at Carol's, we've got Deborah Darby taking over the role, which is great because it's another female chief executive. So I'm really excited to see that. So those are the highlights. But like I said, we've got lots of other moves going on, and it's only Thursday morning. So
yeah, I don't know. It could be. It could be I mean, I joke about spring cleaning, but who knows? Maybe it is kind of like a just sort of season of the year. A lot of this stuff I think could be also coincidental. And then you could also purely have the, we saw the McDonald's layoff news. I said last week, I fully expect more layoffs to come from companies. It could be, hey, it's restructure season as we prepare to lay off a bunch of people. Because I do still expect that to continue, as the year of efficiency, as everybody talks about. So, the only other things I'd add to that, with Claudia San Pedro, she was the highest ranked female CEO in the restaurant industry. So that was a bit of a surprise, not including Michelle over at the NRA, but for a restaurant CEO, she was at the highest rank for a female CEO, and agree with Leanne. I hope everything's okay there, since it was a family concern that she left for. And I had a little bit of pause when I first saw, she's being replaced by Jim Taylor, although Jim is awesome and he's great for that role. But, every time I see a woman CEO be replaced by a man, I sort of cringe. I'm like, oh no, like we're going backward. But to Leanne's point, great to see Rita Patel get that opportunity at Arby's. And then Deborah over at Carol's as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's not to make a mountain out of a molehill here, but it is good to see other women in this industry getting opportunities still in the leadership positions. And yeah, everybody's moving around at Inspire. It is really interesting because John Bowie at Buffalo Wild Wings coming from Arby's, Jim from Arby's going over to Sonic. They've over the years set Inspire up to where their systems are all very consistent across the brands, and so they are able to do that. Which you just think about the bench at that company. I mean, it's just incredible to consider the human capital, I guess you could say, that they have at that company, and I'm sure they're going to continue to raise up future leaders to be prepared to step into positions like this when it calls for it.
Well, so Rita Patel was on our power list the year that we had executives actually name somebody that they thought at the company was going to be a superstar. And so I think that this is just proof that she really was a superstar because she is now president. So I think that that's really important to show that, we asked leaders to pick people and they really picked the people that were going to be the stars because she's now a star. She's president. I mean, that's as high as it gets there. So I think that it's a good point to say that, we did that power list a few years ago and it's really showing that these people are the next big thing. I will also say it's the beginning of Q2. So, I mean, I feel like this is like a preparing for Q4 kind of thing, like getting ready to see what's going to happen in Q3, Q4. But Q2 is kind of like they finished Q1, which for some people is their Q4. So it's kind of like they're getting ready for the end of the year at this point. They're getting ready to celebrate getting through everything. But I think they're trying to get through the main chunk of everything at this point, the main chunk of what could be a recession, what could be layoffs, what could be, we don't know. So I think that they're just trying to get through that middle chunk to celebrate in Q4 when it's allegedly going to be over. I mean, I've seen that from a few people that Q4 is supposed to be much better. So not sure if that's actually true, but some people are predicting that Q4 is supposed to be better. So we'll see.
Indeed, we will.
We will see. Okay, so let's talk about sustainability. It is Earth Month. Congratulations to the Earth. It's its month.
Yay, Earth.
Hey, Earth made it another year, and sometimes I'm not sure it's gonna.
I was gonna say it's its birthday, but I don't know when Earth's birthday is. I would assume that it's January 1st, so I was just like, so I don't really know.
I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I'm just going to let that comment slide. Let's talk about Earth.
I mean, I just feel like if we're going to celebrate Earth's birthday, it should be on the first of the year. Just saying.
Sure.
So anyways, a lot of companies are releasing new sustainability things. I couldn't think of the right word. That's why I said things, guys.
Initiatives.
Thank you. It left my brain. The word just literally flew out of my brain. And so I said things instead. A lot of companies are doing new sustainability initiatives, including Chipotle, which released its big report. It's like 140 pages of its report of all of its ESG goals, its executive compensation, which is something we'll probably get into later. But it talked about this new restaurant prototype that they're going to start putting out in 100 restaurants. That's like a responsible restaurant design, as it's aptly named, because I guess their other restaurants are irresponsible. And then Yum Brands came out with their whole ESG goals and where they're at and everything, and the future of that. So what do you guys think about all of this focus on sustainability for the month of April? Is this all coincidental? Is it all on purpose? I mean, it seems like it could be on purpose. Oh yeah,
it's a good month to announce your sustainability efforts because there's just a lot of focus on it this month. So absolutely, that's why we're seeing more of it right now. I do really like the Chipotle restaurant design. I mean, I'm very wary of restaurant prototype designs because I feel like we don't see them come to fruition a lot. And it's one thing to draw up a fancy looking design of a cool futuristic restaurant. It's another thing to actually open one. So I appreciate their commitment to open, 100 of these. Because it's really cool. I mean, 100% renewable energy from wind and solar power, like that's really cool. Energy efficient equipment. We've been talking about sustainability in restaurants for, forever. I mean, I've been covering this industry for 14 years and I was covering it from day one. How to make a restaurant more green, right? So it's not like this is some new thing. I think it's more that this is never going away. Gen Z and millennials in particular, as we all fall under one of those, care about the environment. We care about the future of this planet and will continue to drive the need to make things more sustainable. We're also talking in a week where, the government is announcing a proposal to require I forget the percentage of vehicles sold in 2032 to be electric, but it's like a huge chunk of vehicles should be electric by 2032. Like there's a very concerted effort now because of all the dire warnings we've heard about climate change to fix what's wrong. And so these are positive steps that are being taken. Chipotle's, again, in particular, I think is a positive step to say, how do we look at this from a comprehensive perspective? What elements of a restaurant take up the most energy, are the most damaging to the planet, and how do we fix that? And I think their model is a really good one for the future. Now, these things are often cost prohibitive. Chipotle can pull it off because it's Chipotle. That the goal is it's like with electric vehicles. The big thing about electric vehicles right now is they are cost prohibitive for the average American. And so the more the government subsidizes electric vehicle production and the more it, the regulations, require that direction, the more car companies, it's in their best interest to drive down the cost of electric vehicles. And that's what's happening. We're getting closer and closer to a point where electric vehicles will be on par with regular vehicles. Same thing for the restaurant industry. I think over time, these sustainability efforts will become more and more affordable. And we'll actually get to a point where it's actually more cost efficient to have a sustainable restaurant than to have just a regular restaurant, just because of the cost savings, and also materials ultimately, hopefully, will be at a point where they are more affordable.
Definitely. I'm excited too about Yum Brands. Some of the stuff that they're doing, most of their stuff right now revolves around sustainable packaging. But what's cool about, again, this is another big restaurant company. They've got 4 brands underneath them. And so they're able to make an impact across a wider, Chipotle is a massive company, but it's just Chipotle. Whereas at Yum Brands, you've got Taco Bell, KFC, they've got a wider audience, so to speak. And Yum Brands has an interesting way of they'll test different things at different brands. They figure out what's effective, what, is doable for them, and then they implement it company-wide. And so that's what they're starting to do with some of their sustainable packaging efforts specifically right now. But it's nice to see the big companies like that making these, bigger, wider changes. Sometimes you hear about like, oh, we're testing sustainable packaging at one restaurant in Ohio. And it's like, that's great. But you're a massive restaurant. And I'm not talking about Yum Brands specifically. I'm saying in general, companies will do this. And then it's like, well, you're a giant restaurant company. Can you do a little more? So it's great to see these big companies making widespread changes like this across all their brands nationwide. So I'm encouraged.
Yeah, and that's, and kind of related to what I was saying too about the prototypes. It's like sustainability in particular is one of those things where you get a lot of lip service, right? Everybody knows they're supposed to mention the this, that, and the other thing. They come out with a 140-page report to say, see, they hire people like McDonald's. One of the new executives just hired at McDonald's. He's in charge of ESG. Like, it's related. It's sort of similar to DEI, right? It's like, no, we got the people here. See, they have the title. We're doing the thing, but what is the actual change you're making? And so that's why, with Yum and Chipotle, it's okay. We're actually seeing some change, and there's a lot more that is needed for sure. But you can take it one step at a time. But I think for all those listening, the practical lesson here is, yes, you need to be talking the talk because younger generations especially care about ESG, but actually do something about it. And especially because if you do something about it and you can show your customers, you see this in a lot of fast casuals. You walk in and you say, hey, this is how much we're recycling, and this is, we're composting. And, I think some brands have really gotten that really well, but it's a feature of your brand. That's where we had to get. It's show how you are actually being sustainable, because people care and they want to see, they want to know, they want to trust that you're doing the right thing.
I actually did an interview with this brand called Neon Greens that they haven't opened any units yet, but they have plans to. And so they have their lettuce is grown on site at every one of their restaurants. They're going to now have lettuce grown on site. And so because they're a salad company. And so they're going to have their lettuce grown in a little greenhouse next to the restaurant. And then it's going to come through on a conveyor belt, so that the lettuce is completely fresh when you eat it, because apparently it loses nutrients as it continues on. So this is a new restaurant concept that's planning on growing exponentially. And so I talked to the founder, and it's just so interesting to hear. He's our age. All of us are around the same age. He's around our age. And so it's just like these younger people are developing restaurant concepts that have sustainability in mind. But it's also, just like you were saying, Sam, with electric cars. The government has a lot of programs that now give you discounts on solar energy panels, on wind turbines. They're not really turbines.
Wow.
I was really hit a wall there. What word was coming next? Yeah. Okay.
Wind collection.
But they have all of these incentives for you to get that. And so from what we've heard from a lot of restaurants is that it pays back within 10 years. And then you're only making money. So I know there was a Chick-fil-A unit that was going to, just one unit. So it's not, just like Leanne was saying, it's just one unit. But they were going to do all of this solar panels. And so I think they said that it would pay back in less than 10 years. And then they're just going to be making money, but they have all these incentives from the government. And so the government has been working on programs like solar paneling to get people to do more of it.
Yeah. It is just it is one of those things. I've had multiple times. I've lived in my house for a year, and multiple people have come by my house to pitch me on solar panels. And I hear them out. I hear the pitch, and I get it that, it pays for itself in 15, 20 years. But the upfront cost, they sugarcoat it, but the upfront cost is still significant, right? And so that's the same thing with restaurants, which is, yes, there's tax breaks. There's all these things that's so great. But restaurants are a notoriously low profit margin business, and so to make an upfront cost of however many thousands to invest in solar panels or whatever it is out of reach for most restaurant operators. So So that's why there still needs to be progress made. But I am encouraged by the Chick-fil-A's, the Chipotle's, and the Yum brands of demonstrating how it can be done. Those restaurants that have the resources to do this, demonstrating how it can be done, hopefully how it can be effective, so that in time, even independent restaurant operators can do these things as well.
I mean, I think Chipotle is going a bit far. I hesitate to say that, but they're having art made with corn husks at their restaurants. Like, I feel like that's just honestly a step too far.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to get cutesy about it, right? Like, just make your restaurant sustainable. Like, you don't need to hit us over the head with it.
I think, we're so focused on the business side. I think a lot of restaurants do the cutesy stuff because those are the things that get other people talking.
Right. Well, and that's the lip service sometimes too.
That's right? Yeah. And I mean, like, so a certain amount of lip service is necessary, but you also have to do the bigger, like, effective things. Yeah. So you do the artwork to get people talking and get consumers into your restaurant, where you are also doing more to make planet Earth livable.
That was so positive from you, Leanne.
Thank you. It hurt.
You don't get a lot of positivity out of Leanne.
That's why I was so shocked. I was just wow.
Weather, guys. The sunshine has done something to me. I'm happy.
Leanne is a warm weather person. You do know that.
You do know that.
Leanne likes her warm weather.
A warm weather person who lives in New York.
Cage. Yeah,
at least she doesn't live in Ohio. I feel like it's colder there.
Anymore.
I'm probably further south than you guys.
We talked about this last week. Don't look at my map skills, but
Oh no. I'm gonna check the latitude longitude here.
Yeah, you check it. So okay. Sam, how's your trampoline installation going? Because I have to ask you a few questions.
I've got a man unloading boxes in my yard as we speak.
Ask
me questions about what?
Restaurant related? I hope. Hopefully, but who knows what comes to my mind?
I don't have to be. I contribute nothing to trampoline assembly. I could literally do nothing with that. So I'm fine. I can talk.
I didn't know if there were children screaming with excitement.
No, the only child here is the sick one. So no screaming from her. But when I mute, it's because of the dog barking. So if I have to go off, that's what's happening.
Well, I was going to talk to you about the power list, which we released this week. I mean, I already brought up our power list previously. We were talking about Rita Patel, but this is our power list for this year. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
No. It's journalism 101. Don't ask yes, no questions, Holly. But yes, I can answer a few or tell you a little bit about Power List. So, Power List predates all of us at Nation's Restaurant News and has long been a way to identify the most powerful executives in the restaurant industry. And for a long time, these are the 50 top executives. And that was that. But over time, before me, but while you guys were here, I think you realized, well, this is getting a little dull and is also not a very good way to feature diversity in, or having women on the list. So you guys shook things up in 2020. I guess it was 2021 when you had executives pick the rising stars, which is what you were referencing, Holly, when Rita Patel was on the list. And then last year we changed it again, and we looked at people in the restaurant industry who had big ideas, because we had that idea that ideas were powerful, not necessarily the people. And so we featured 50 people with really big ideas, and that was a really cool exercise in just looking at the innovators across the restaurant industry. So this year we wanted to change it up once again. So we thought to ourselves, okay, who is another powerful demographic in this industry that might be not as recognized and might be a little bit under the radar. And for us, that was the general manager. And, the three of us, our whole team, we don't have a lot of experience talking about general managers, interviewing general managers, which we, should be corrected probably, because when you think about it, I mean, general managers are really, I mean, the way I put it in the editor's letter was, the executives may be the brains of the company, but the general manager is really the heart, because these are the people who execute strategy at the store level. They are in charge of building and maintaining team culture. They're in charge of unit economics. They're in charge of great customer service, right? I mean, it's one thing for an executive to to sing the praises of, oh, this great new thing we're doing, oh, this new menu item. But like, until you really get into the restaurant to see how this is executed, what good is it? It's just talk until you have a general manager actually putting it into action. So that's why this year's Power List, we featured 25 general managers from across the country that we think are the best general managers. And we had a submission process with hundreds of candidates that came in, and we were able to assess them just based on, some factors, the numbers. Are these people driving profitable restaurants? We asked for more just anecdotes, stories about these people to say, what makes them different, what makes them so great. And we got, legitimately some stories that were real tear jerkers. We got some stories that, were just so inspirational. And this was a really cool exercise, I think, for our whole team to go through, to hear these stories, to recognize these people who, again, are just so crucial to the success of a restaurant. Everybody who's listening, who's in the restaurant industry, is probably just like, yeah, duh, of course, general managers. Like, you're nothing without a general manager. But, so much attention is put on the other higher ups in a restaurant company, and we just really wanted to put the attention on those folks who are running these restaurants as general managers. And so what I hope our audience gets out of this is to learn about some characteristics of general managers at other companies that might be helpful in just identifying, new talent at your own company, to just see, a sense of some of the unique programs and campaigns and ideas that these general managers have in running their teams. I think this is really beneficial for certainly general managers to read up on, to see, this is kind of like a benchmark of who is the best of the best, what I could aspire to. And so there is a common thread through the 25 profiles, and that's just that these people are great with soft skills, right? These are true leaders of people, and they understand how to rally their teams, motivate their people, build that team mentality and culture, and then put them to work in really executing the brand at the top level and providing great customer service. And that obviously leads to profitability. So all that said, go check out our Power List, nrn.com/power-list. Leanne, hopefully I got that right. Great. Yep. Because if you just go to nrn.com, you'll find it too. I think if you read through these profiles, you'll be inspired. Also, watch the great video that Holly put together with some snippets from everybody, all the general managers, or several general managers, kind of sharing their stories. It really is, kind of a tearjerker. These people are just so inspiring. And again, I hope it helps sort of change your frame of reference for the importance of the general manager position, how critical they are to success, what your own general managers at your restaurants can be. And so it was very much our pleasure to be able to do that for our Power List this year.
I had one of those tearjerker stories in one of my profiles. And so it was the story of Stephanie Bailey, who's a GM for Happy Joe's. And this does tie into an email I recently got. So that's why I'm telling the story. So she had a customer who was in a wheelchair, and she would deliver to him, but she would take extra time because she would open up a straw for him. She'd open up his sauce packets. And so she'd always take extra time delivering. And so when she became a general manager, she told all of her delivery drivers to take the extra time whenever he ordered food, because he ordered so often to do all of that for him. And they became friends, and he would call her, and he would come into the restaurant with his parents, and he got to make a pizza one point. And he died recently, but they have a picture of him in the restaurant. And so I got an email from his parents that said she truly is everything that you think. Like, she's an incredible person. We're so lucky to have her in our lives. And I was just like crying reading the email, and I was just like, this is so amazing. Like, people genuinely care about these general managers. Like, customers generally care. We had executives on the call with us. The executives generally care. Like, it was just a really unique moment for us to have with executives and general managers, because we had both of them on the call at the same time when we were talking. And so it was a really unique moment for us to look up and say, they are such an important role. We have customers emailing us that they're important. We have executives telling us that they're important. Like, it's just such a beautiful moment to say, like, we had this hypothesis and it was right. Like, we're getting feedback that we were totally right on this. Any thoughts, Leanne?
It's an incredible package. I wasn't as involved with the actual storytelling on this one, but I've had the chance to read all 25 profiles. I've watched a lot of the interviews. And yeah, this is a really good one. We say this every year, but this is such a good power list, and it's important. Like I feel like the power list is more important now than it was when we were just naming the 50 most powerful people in the industry point blank.
Yeah, and I guess the last thing I'd say too is, I mean, especially in this day and age where labor is such a difficult thing, we've been hearing about general managers being the most important position in the restaurant company really since the beginning of the pandemic, because general managers were the ones responsible for, activating all the COVID restrictions. They were the ones responsible for mask police often. I mean, it was really the hardest time to be a general manager in the thick of COVID, and they stepped up to the plate. They continue to step up to the plate considering everything going on. But so much, you hear this from restaurateurs all the time. I mean, it's like you live and die by your general manager, and the challenge to restaurant leaders today is GM retention. And actually, if I could share a quick story, I was in Austin, and Jeff Chandler, the CEO of Hop Dottie, was one of our panelists at the Roadshow in Austin. And he was sharing this program that they have for their general managers, where they, give all these incentives to the GMs if they reach 5 years in the position. I forget all the incentives, but, one of them is they get like 28-day sabbatical every year. I'm going to butcher it, so I won't try to pretend I know what all the incentives were, but there are these incredible incentives. And he said five GMs have since crossed that platform, that threshold to get those incentives. And restaurant companies, I think, are recognizing that, like, you have got to incentivize your GMs to stay, because that role is so critical. And so again, I think if you read these profiles, you really understand why. Because yeah, I mean, Holly, that story you told, I mean, that there are so many of those similar anecdotes about people who are truly cornerstones in their community, and are they connect with customers in a way that, if you're a CEO of a restaurant, if you're a founder of a restaurant, like, you could only dream of somebody instilling your brand in a community in the way some of these GMs do. So yeah, there's much to learn from that, but I do think the restaurant industry is really recognizing, okay, we've got to step up, make sure the GMs are invested in the success of their restaurants, to make sure that they're sticking around, they are taken care of, because they're the ones running the store, running the ship, in the community, at the community level, which is so important.
Yeah, for sure. I don't have a good segue for this, but I want to talk about Create. So that's my segue.
That's a segue in itself. Yeah, sure.
So I know we talked about it a little bit before, but we officially announced Danny Trejo as our keynote speaker. Sam, can you talk a little bit about that? I know you were pretty instrumental in that.
Yeah, Danny Trejo. If you don't know his name, just Google him and you'll know who he is. He's been in like 100 and something movies. The guy is he's all over movies. He's got a really recognizable face. But he has an incredible story. I mean, he was in jail for a number of years. He had a really rough childhood and upbringing, was in jail for a long time, and then turned his life around. And I think he didn't star in his first movie until he was in his 40s, but he got into Hollywood. He starred in a bunch of action movies in particular. And he has used his success to do incredible things, including he does mentorship of prisoners in prison, and he has a great program to support prisoners. But he's also in the restaurant industry, and he owns a few different restaurant concepts, including Trejo's Tacos. And his face is kind of all over Hollywood now, because Trejo's Tacos, he's got Trejo's Donuts and coffee. Trejo's Cantina, which is just kind of an upscale level of the Trejo's Tacos, and his face is the logo, because they know he's got a very recognizable face. Again, Danny Trejo. If you don't know the name, just Google him. You'll know who he is. All to say, he's keynoting our Create experience in Palm Springs in October, because I love the story. It's going to be a conversation between myself and him, and I'm going to just get into his story, of course, but really, his connection to food service too, getting into this industry. Why did he decide to do that, and really get into the branding? Here he is, a guy who's got great brand recognition. Like, how has he leveraged that for success? And if you want to meet Danny Trejo, get a selfie with Danny Trejo, you're going to have an opportunity to do that in Palm Springs. But importantly, you're going to hear Danny Trejo's story, and I think that's enough. The price of admission to Create, which by the way is free. So it's price of flight to Palm Springs and hotel room in Palm Springs is worth that. So Danny Trejo, very excited. We'll have lots more speakers to announce here coming up for Create in Palm Springs, but save the date, October 1st through 3rd. It's going to be a party. We're going to have a blast. It's going to be, if you ever wanted work to feel like a vacation, this is it. So create.nrn.com. You can go get more information about that.
And it's at the Margaritaville Resort, another well-branded place.
Yeah. And once upon a time, I might have rolled my eyes. And when we first talked about hosting, I was like, okay, sure. But I had the pleasure of going a couple weeks ago, and this place is gorgeous. And you will literally just feel transported to vacation land while you're there. I am in talks with my wife to go a few days early because I just want to lay by the pool for a little while too. not have to work.
Serious negotiations going on in the
Those talks also involve, of course, grandparents and childcare and such.
Yes.
But I do not want my kids to be laying poolside with me. Highly encourage everybody to check out more details about Create, because again, this is a one-of-a-kind restaurant event, not a conference, not a trade show. This thing is an experience. So go to Palm Springs.
What's in the name?
October 1st to 3rd. Create the experience.
Yes, Holly, that's
yes, it is. It's kind of why I said it, Holly. I was riffing here. Anyway, this thing has gone on way too long. We got to land this airplane.
Let's land it right now, because I'm going to throw it over to Joanna Fantozzi, who has an interview with Tony Curtis, the president of Burger King. So I'm going to thank you guys for joining me, and then we'll throw it over to Joanna.
Thanks, Holly.
Thanks, Holly.
Everyone in the industry knows that Smithfield Culinary has a full line of great, ready-to-cook, ready-to-eat products with Smithfield and Margarita. But what else is cooking? Tap into the latest culinary trends and get inspired with new recipes created by real working chefs from across the country. Bring more to the table with flavors and menu ideas your guests will savor. Visit smithfieldculinary.com or follow Smithfield Culinary on social media.
We announced the Reclaim the Flame plan back in September at our convention, and then did a round of interviews and talked to the street about it, talked to reporters about it. But what I think is really important is there was a prequel, if you will, to the Reclaim the Flame plan. About a year prior to that, we talked to our franchisees about the importance of, before we do anything overt, before we start talking to consumers, we really need to shore up our operations. And it's not that they were bad, but you just want to have the best guest experience possible if you're going to start amplifying your voice in media. So about a year before we announced the Reclaim the Flame plan, we did a lot of work to simplify the menu, to simplify the product build processes, and to simplify the menu as the guest sees it as well, because that can impact actual speed of service if you don't have somebody trying to figure out where everything is on the menu. So we eliminated some things that guests really didn't want that much of anyway, but added complexity to the restaurants. Once again, we took a lot of the sandwiches and made the builds more consistent across them. So, for example, if you have one burger that has cheese on it and another burger that has cheese on it, probably not the best idea to have two different ways to put the cheese on, put it like in between the burgers or on top of the burgers or crisscross this way. So just added consistency there. And we got some good operational improvements and improved guest perception just from that. And I think that kind of put us in a place where we felt confident that announcing and executing on more of a strategic plan would take root and last, stand the test of time. So we came to convention and announced the plan, and really coming out of convention, the first step was to double down on the operational effort. So I've been in operations all my life. I was a franchisee for about 20 years, so I've kind of got my head rooted in that place, that if you give a guest a great experience and you serve a great product, that your business will take care of itself. But we launched a number of initiatives coming out of convention to even further improve our performance in the restaurants. So the first thing that we did was try to shine a bright light of attention on the Whopper, and we had a gold standard service training. So it was really there were 3 elements to that training to try to keep it simple. You have to keep things simple in the restaurant business. The first thing was greeting people in a friendly way, and just starting with that, smile when you start and smile when you finish. And the in-between part, the only technical part of the training, was going back and digging into the Whopper and retraining people on how to execute the Whopper consistently every time. And a lot of that is not just learning how to make the Whopper, but it's just highlighting the importance of it for team members, so that culturally, every time they see a Whopper up on the screen, they know that's their moment to shine. And I think that also has had a dramatic effect on guest metrics and on restaurant execution. And following that, to further kind of amplify that cultural piece, we invited as many restaurant managers as would come to a series of 45 what we call Royal Roundtables. So 45 cities across the country with a rally. What's interesting is we invited every manager to come. We have about 7,000 restaurants, and 8,000 managers showed up. So I'm still trying to figure out the math on that one. But
did some assistant GMs come maybe?
Yeah, which is great, which is fine, because to see that level of interest was fantastic. But I think what was really great to see, and what you can't experience when you train in restaurants one by one, restaurant managers can't have that camaraderie and understanding of other folks and other people that are in this with them, and them meeting each other, exchanging business cards for the people who still have business cards, and getting to know each other. It was, I think, really powerful. And to this day, you can see it on social media. They're still chattering with each other, talking about something great that happened in their restaurant, sharing anecdotes about the business, sharing best practices. And so I think we really ignited a sense of community through those Royal Roundtables. Mm-hmm. And part of the Royal Roundtables was to kind of give them a playbook for how to go back and refresh their restaurant. So they all went back to the restaurants after that and did a 5-week refresh. And that 5-week refresh coincided with money that's going in from the franchisees. Part of the Reclaim the Flame plan was, hey, we'll invest up to $50 million, so that's about $15,000 a restaurant, into technology for back of house, technology for front of house, any technology for the restaurants to make them operate better. And then the franchisee, dollar for dollar, will also invest in equipment, broilers, fryers, parking lot striping, lighting, you name it, but just things to make the restaurant a nicer place to work. So what you've got team members, managers, they're putting effort and energy into the restaurants. You've got us, Burger King, putting money into the technology to run the restaurants better, and franchisees putting their money in. So it's an all-in effort, and our guest metrics have improved by 20%. Accuracy and actually temperature have been the places where we've made the most progress, interestingly enough. I don't know why those two, but maybe it's because of that focus again on the Whopper, making it right every time, have improved those specific metrics. But just overall, the customer experience has gotten better. And then the part that gets all the press is the marketing part. So in October, we also launched the You Rule campaign, with the benefit of additional marketing dollars that we're putting in. So just to refresh your memory, the Fuel the Flame agreement that we entered into with our franchisees, 96% of them signed. is us putting in $120 million over 2 years into the ad fund, and then them contributing 0.5% for 2 years after that. So we're kind of, once again, everything's co-investment. We're going in, they're going in, and so that with that amplified voice, we launched this You Rule campaign in October, and the You Rule campaign was really about two things. First and foremost, it was about the Whopper, and then second, as you can kind of deduce from the words You Rule, it's about a big pivot in the way that we think about ourselves as a brand, and not thinking of ourselves as royalty and being Burger King. And you probably remember for years there was a king, sometimes kind of creepy guy, but you haven't seen the king in our new brand positioning and new messaging, because it's really the guest that's royalty. So we're really trying to pivot both in the minds of our team members and the minds of our guests that at Burger King, you're royalty now. Now, all of that has taken hold. The results were very good in Q4. We announced in 2 weeks the results for Q1. So Kristen will kick me under the table if I start to share numbers. But what's really been exciting about Q1, without sharing numbers, and you might have heard a bit about this, but that Whopper jingle went absolutely viral. So in social media, I get text messages and emails all the time with people showing a bus full of kids going Whopper, 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 and singing the new jingle. And ironically, when the team came and said, "Hey, here's the new jingle," because we thought we needed to refresh the jingle, and I listened to it for the first time, and it was like Whopper, 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 Whopper. I was like, okay, that's redundant and not creative. But our advertising team and agency said, "Hey, listen, stick to operations," which thank goodness I did. And we launched that, and it's really gone viral. And like the chatter about it, the memes, the remixes. I could play a couple of favorites for you, but I don't know if you like Daft Punk. But in any case,
that's amazing.
Yeah, all of that has far exceeded our expectations, and also it's really been attention and relevance that we haven't had to spend money to get. So that's been helpful and powerful. And then the last piece, and then I'll stop and we'll talk more about anything you want to talk about. But the last piece that I think gets lost a lot because we talk about marketing, we talk about operations, we talk about investment into the business, but really I think the secret sauce in the Reclaim the Flame plan is that it was built with franchisees. So literally they suggested ideas, we suggested ideas, we beat up each other's ideas and came to a common space. And then at that convention, it was me standing on stage alongside 12 franchisees talking about how everybody needed to be all in. And so like their energy around operations and execution coming out of September and really changing the experience and making that experience great, I think is what's going to be foundationally something that makes every element of the plan that we execute on for the next several years. It's just going to amplify all of that. So far, so good.
Great. All right. A lot. I have to remember all the things that I had like follow-up questions in my head. So first of all, could you give me a timeline of all the stuff that you just said and kind of when that occurred and which was the kind of prelude to the Reclaim the Flame and which, et cetera?
Okay. So I joined, or became the president in August of 2021.
Okay.
And the team, I was chief operating officer before that, but the team and the franchisees had been saying since the day that I arrived, hey, we really need to get refocused on operations and make it easier to operate this business model. So the team had been building the plan to do that simplification plan through August of 2021. And then once again, for about a year, really just hammered on that and hammered on the culture in the restaurants with the franchisees. That brought us to September of 2022. Keep me honest here on dates if I mess up. September of 2022, when based on the work that had been done over the summer to build the plan, we stood up at convention in front of all the franchisees and the team members that they had brought there and said, hey, this is what we believe in, this is what we want you to sign up for. And then really left convention, and within 2 weeks we were doing the gold standard service training. And that took a couple of months. And then in Q4 of 2022, we started doing the advertising and the roundtables. So those started in Q4. And then Q1 has been about the Whopper Whopper jingle and the messaging there, as well as these Royal Reset investments that have been going into the restaurants, where we're spending money on technology, franchisees are spending money on equipment and leasehold improvements, and team members are going through just a spruce up program. So that's been Q1, and that brings us to basically now. Okay.
I could see that now. Okay, yes, absolutely. Yeah. And so the something that I heard you speak a lot about is simplification. And so could you kind of go into more detail on how you figure out, I guess, what processes or operations elements needs to be simplified and which can kind of remain or remain more complex, so to speak?
Yeah, well, I think you have to look at. We looked at a couple of things. First of all, on some things that we don't sell a lot of that are really hard to make, either simplifying them or eliminating them from the menu, finding out from guests and doing research on, hey, why is this important to you? Is it part of the value proposition at Burger King? Kind of helped us understand what was relevant and irrelevant. And then also, just to hold ourselves to standard expectation, we built what we call a complexity tool. So everything that you make gets a score at Burger King, gets a score. The chicken sandwich that we used to have had the highest score. It was an 84. So 84 doesn't mean anything to you, but that was the highest. And then certain things are easy to make. A shake, you just do this, so it might be 15. So we have a complexity score. We hold ourselves to a standard number or range that we can allow our restaurants to be in. So if we want to introduce something that's a little bit complicated, because we are going to continue to innovate, and we are going to continue to try to find new news and new items that capture the imagination of the consumer. But if we do that, we're going to have to figure out where we give and what's irrelevant, perhaps, or not something that is in high demand, and take that off the menu. And then just on the processes, once again, when you look at similar products across our menu, if they're similar and they have an item on them, it probably doesn't need to be that item doesn't need to be applied or put onto the product in a different way across those menu offerings. So once again, just looking across the menu and saying, okay, hold on a second, this hamburger has cheese and that hamburger has cheese. Why it's not going to taste any different if you put the cheese on one way on this hamburger and a different way on that hamburger. So just looking for those opportunities to make it easier to operate. I think the purpose of all this, the balance that we have to find in all this, is whenever we did look at a change in a process or elimination of a SKU that wasn't driving sales, every time you take something off the menu, there's going to be an impact to your sales. But if you get a higher impact because of your improved service, and these things can be measured, then that's a worthwhile trade-off. So by nature, we don't want to take things away from the consumer, but if we take something away that they don't think is important and give them better speed and friendliness and quality and accuracy and temperature, then that's a worthwhile trade-off for the guest.
Would you be able to give me an example of something that you were like, we don't think that this is really selling, or we don't think this is quite right for our guests?
So we launched shortly before my time a hand-breaded chicken sandwich. It was great. It was delicious, but it was really, really, really tough to execute. So there's 21 steps in hand breading, and so
a lot of steps.
I would go into a restaurant late at night, and they're trying to manage their inventory, so they'd be making them more to order, and it could take, because it's not the sweet spot of what we do best, it could take 21 minutes to make a chicken sandwich. I don't know who wants to sit in the drive-thru for 21 minutes. I don't want to sit in the drive-thru for 21 minutes. But it just that's an example of something where we had to say, okay, this is just not working. How can we re-engineer? How can we engineer a product that's as good, but that we can execute consistently every day? And so the Royal Crispy Chicken Sandwich that we have now is a 5-step process. It's easier to make, makes team members happy, makes customers happier because they're getting it quickly. And I think for me, that's the best example of simplification that we have.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that you said that you kind of retaught people how to make the best Whopper. Could you be, not to put you on the spot, but would you be able to give me a tip on like how to make a great Whopper? Anywhere in the process.
Let's see. If I was going to tell you how to make a great Whopper, I mean, the most important thing is consistency. But I think for me, and it's a differentiator, is like making sure that you're managing your cooking process to have the shortest period of time from the time that burger comes off the grill to the time, or off the broiler, to the time that it goes on the sandwich and into the customer's hands is number one. And number two is just always making sure that the vegetables are very fresh, because those are the differentiators for Burger King. Like you don't get fresh toppings like that lettuce and the tomato in the way when you go to other mass QSR, large burger restaurants. And you certainly can't get a flame broiled burger at any of the other big QSR restaurants. And those are the things that make us special. Those are the things that were the reason why when I used to work for a pizza company, but I got off the airplane coming home after a long, hard week, I'd go to the Burger King drive-thru because I wanted a flame grilled burger. I didn't want a grilled burger. Mm-hmm. But I think those things are what make us special. So if I was training anybody, I'd be training them on those two things first, because they're what make Burger King special.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like a big part of this plan, besides the marketing aspect, is the relationship with franchisees. I guess so. How important do you think is that relationship? How have the franchisees responded, et cetera?
Yeah. So I can still say to this day, I've been a franchisee longer than I've been a corporate citizen. So I was a franchisee for 20 years before I joined the corporate ranks. And I know that my business was driven by what I did. Corporate kind of gave, whatever the brand was doing would give us a lift or be a drag. But I think understanding that they're the ones that drive the business and giving them credit for the progress that we're making. And I think also respecting the fact that for me, this is a job. For all of us, this is a job in Miami. But for them, their families work in these restaurants. All of their money is in these restaurants. And generally 30 or 40 years of their lives are in these restaurants. Their entire professional lives are spent in Burger Kings. And I think understanding that and treating them with the respect that they're due is part of why we're successful, because we know that it's their success that will drive our success. I think a lot of, when you work in Miami or in any corporate office, you're constantly coming up with strategies and plans and investment and things that you think that will really drive the business. But the heart and soul of the restaurant business is in the restaurants. I think understanding that and making decisions with that always in the back of your mind is A, why the relationship is good, and B, why I think we're enjoying some early success.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of that early success, so now that you're a quarter or two out from when this process kind of started, what difference do you think the Reclaim the Flame plan has made on the company or the brand or perception of the brand, et cetera?
Yeah, the advertising message is what's really kind of changing that perception to, rather than Burger King, you rule. And we're only one quarter in the books, so to speak. The other quarter's in the books. We're just not talking about it until May 2nd. But the first quarter was a success. I think much of that success was due to just the increased advertising firepower. Operational improvements take longer and last longer when you make them. So I think that we can quantify the amount of lift that we're getting from operations, and it's growing over time. But I think that those improvements really have an impact on retention and frequency. So we'll see those impacts amplify and accelerate over time. The impact of the remodel investment that we're also making, we didn't really talk about that too much yet, because the remodels, you have to, when we announced it in September, then franchisees have to go out and figure out which projects they're going to do. They have to get a contractor, then they have to get a permit. So we haven't even broken ground on any of the Reclaim the Flame remodels yet. So those will have those will provide more of a tailwind, in the back half of this year and in future years. So everything happened to plan in Q1 and Q2. The only thing that didn't happen to plan, in Q4 and Q1. The only thing that didn't happen to plan in my eyes was that the Whopper jingle and the virality of that, of the jingle. So that was kind of an upside surprise. And then all of the other elements that were announced are really just coming online now in the back half of this year and in 2024.
And can you walk me through what those remodels will look like?
We're working, I don't have all the details to share, but we're working on a new restaurant model. And what I can tell you is we need to meet the guests where they want to be, and where the guest wants to be these days is they want a easy, frictionless digital experience. That can be at the drive-through, it can be through a kiosk, it can be at the front counter, it can be mobile order and pay and just walk in and pick up. But I think defining and refining those processes will be part of what you see in new restaurants going forward.
Yeah, what we like to say is the buzzword over the past year or so has been omnichannel. So so it definitely fits within that for sure. And
that's what guests want, and so you got to kind of skate to where the puck's going.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned that some of these changes or evolutions will continue in the rest of the fiscal year and into 2024. So I guess what are you most excited about moving forward?
I'm excited to see, once again, you've got progress being made and results being driven by what we're doing now. But as you layer things on top of each other, and I learned this in a past life with a past brand, I think, just watching those build on each other is what I'm excited to see. What what I didn't mention that I'm most excited about in what's happened so far, and what we did announce, so I can talk about, is in Q4 of 2022, franchise profitability was 40% over where it was for Q4 of 2021. So it was a huge turn in franchise profitability. Like I said, franchise profitability will drive brand profitability and brand and stock price. And so seeing the P&L turn in such a healthy way, and watching that grow, and being able to also, and being willing and eager to talk about it with the street, I think has been exciting as well.
Oh, that's great. That's a huge difference. Wow.
Yeah, it was. It was part of our Fuel the Flame agreement with the franchisees was, hey, you'll contribute to the ad fund in the out years if and only if we get to $175,000 per unit in unit profitability. And when we signed the agreement, I was a little bit apprehensive. Are we really going to be able to move the P&L that quickly? I mean, that 40% improvement year over year has me pretty confident that that's going to be a layup.
And what do you think that was most attributable to?
I think there was a lot of things going on, both macro and micro. One, internally, we were investing in the ad fund, and that was driving more sales and more people into the restaurants. At the same time that commodity prices were coming down in the back half of last year. Also, in the front half of last year, we We reduced the items that you can get on promotion. Burger King had literally become a discount brand, but we took Whopper off of core discount. So with all of our discount mechanisms, you could get a Whopper, which is why most people came to Burger King. The really cool thing was when we took it off of core discount, people still wanted the Whopper. So I think all of those things together, like reducing the promotional activity, commodities coming down, sales going up, it was like a perfect storm in a good way for the P&L.
We're seeing that a lot where people are reducing discounts and promotions and kind of increasing that everyday value and like the overall value of like kind of what you're getting and the quality of the food, etc., and the experience, but just kind of reducing those promotions and seeing a good response, I guess, from customers.
Yeah, I think if you focus on doing what people come to you for and doing it well, you don't need to discount that thing. Now, there are value consumers out there that come to us and come to all brands to get a great deal. So you have to have something for them, something for that guest. But when it comes to what your flagship is, what you're famous for and what you're good at, like people will come because you're famous for it, because it's really delicious, because it's flame broiled, all those things. And you don't necessarily need to discount in that part of your menu. So it's knowing where to give value and where to give quality, and I think you can be all things to all guests.
Okay, free marketing idea, because the way you phrased that just reminded me of, you need to talk to the Field of Dreams folks to just be like, if you build it, meaning the Whopper, they will come. Because the way that you phrased that, it immediately.
That is our business strategy.
Okay, I like to circle it entirely back to baseball. But anyway, I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you so much.